Hello and welcome to the Clear Gospel Podcast. I'm Austin.
I'm Aubrey.
We are married with two beautiful children. On this show, we desire to share the message of everlasting life with people around us. It is easy,
Free,
and clear. In this episode, we will talk about the clear gospel according to Jesus. We hope you enjoy.
You know how people today don't like making promises? Why is that?
Probably because people can't keep them.
Exactly. Well, Jesus made a promise that he's never broken, and it's the most life-changing one of all. Which one do you think it is?
I'm going to guess eternal life.
Exactly. Ding, ding, ding.
So in today's episode, we really want to dive into Jesus' promise of everlasting life in the Gospel of
John.
And why the Gospel of John?
Because John is the only gospel written to unbelievers.
Oh, that's a bold statement. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So if it's the Gospel of John, who do you think wrote it?
John.
John the Baptist?
No. Isn't it John the son of Zebedee?
It is, and he's an apostle.
Mm-hmm.
So John the Apostle, not John the Baptist, even though John the Baptist is mentioned.
In the book of John.
Right, but is written by the apostle. So we established the author, but you mentioned that bold statement of it's mentioned for evangelism, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we know that?
Because it's in his purpose statement.
Right, and so what is a purpose statement, or how do we find a purpose statement in a book?
Usually in a book, the purpose statement is either at the beginning or the end of someone's writings.
Right. So what's funny is, like, a lot of books I read, I do read they call it the preface.
Mm-hmm.
We were debating, is it the preface or the preface?
Preface. Before face.
But yeah, it's usually at the beginning of like a typical normal book, and it just kind of states like why he wrote this book, who he wrote it to, things like that. So with that being said, we already talked about that. What does the word gospel mean? Because we said the Gospel of John. So what's gospel mean?
It means good news.
And I wonder what good news we're going to find out.
Maybe the good news of everlasting life.
We'll have to stay tuned to find out. So some fun facts when I was doing my study in the book of John, 92% of John is unique. Talking about all the scriptures in all 21 chapters, 92% of it is only unique to that book.
That's pretty neat.
It's pretty cool. But the other three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are called the Synoptics. You want to guess why?
Tell me why.
So it's because they all tell a similar storyline, but they serve a different purpose, which is for
discipleship.
Yeah, so discipleship, which means that the audience of Matthew, Mark, and Luke are actually written to believers. But what does that mean for the book of John then?
Well, we already established that it's written to unbelievers.
Exactly. I just want to make sure that's very clear.
Yes.
So can we read his purpose statement?
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to flip to, in my Bible, John chapter 20, verses 30 through 31. And it says, "And truly Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book." Want to guess which other books they're written in?
The Synoptics.
Sounds
Matthew,
good to
Mark,
me.
and Luke.
"But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name." What life in his name is he referring to?
Everlasting life.
So with this purpose statement, it sounds like everything that he's going to talk about in this book is for a person to receive
everlasting life.
Yeah. So what's like the most common, starting at the beginning of John, the most common verse a lot of people know?
I mean, we've read it in a couple of our other podcasts, but it is John 3:16.
Do you want to read it?
Sure can. Let's see. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life."
So what do you think's important in that verse?
Everlasting life.
Right, and how does one receive it?
Through belief
in Jesus for
everlasting life.
And it sounds like they'll have it. So we're going to go through a couple of verses kind of like a quick survey of the book of John. We can't cover everything in this book, obviously, because we're trying to keep this podcast as short as possible. But we do encourage you to go and read these scriptures yourself and also read the Gospel of John. But I want to hop over to a little bit before, in John 3, verses 14 through 15. And it says, let me find my place. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. So to give context, this actually is being pulled from Numbers 21, verses 9. And in chapter 21 of Numbers, what's the context behind this is Moses is taking the children out of taking the children out of Egypt, and they are grumbling and mumbling before God, and God basically sends these serpents that are biting them, and then they reach out to Moses and say, Moses, help us, save us somehow, and Moses prays to God, and God basically tells Moses, hey, grab a serpent, stick it on a pole, lift it up, which is known as this bronze serpent, and anyone that looks at the bronze serpent right then and there, they will be instantly healed from the bites from the snakes.
So you're telling me they don't have to continue looking at the serpent forever?
No. All they had to do was literally look at it once, and they were instantly healed. So why do you think he put this in chapter 3? What was his main point of this?
To prove that, like, when you have everlasting life, you can't lose it.
You can't lose it, but also, do you have to keep believing? No. I mean, you want to obviously keep believing, but it's not required to keep everlasting life. What he's trying to say here is all you have to do is look at the serpent once, and those people were healed, meaning when you believe in Jesus for everlasting life, you have it, and you don't have to keep believing, okay?
Because we know Jesus doesn't break his promise.
Right. And flipping over to chapter 4 with the Samaritan woman, what is that about in chapter 4?
I will read it so we can find out. I'm going to read verses 10 through 13. Jesus answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. The woman said to him, Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock? Jesus answered and said to her, Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water, springing up into everlasting life.
So, what was this metaphor of living water that he was trying to get across to her?
It's you take a drink once and you never have to drink again. And he used this metaphor because obviously she was going to draw water. So he used her present circumstances to share the message of everlasting life with her.
Yeah, it sounded like once you believe in the free gift of everlasting life, which he was offering right then and there to her, all she needed to do was believe, and she had it. Like the spring of everlasting life is everlasting. She didn't have to keep drinking from this physical water. Very good. So another couple of verses we want to talk about, which we're going to kind of skim through these just for time purposes, but we encourage you to read them yourself. John 6:35 is one of my favorites. Basically, it talks about you will never thirst and hunger, and this is in the context of when he's feeding the 5,000. And, of course, he gives them the bread, and referring back to chapter 4, the never thirsting with the Samaritan woman, Jesus is trying to emphasize that you'll never thirst or hunger again. Metaphorically speaking, you have everlasting life. You can't lose it. You have it then and there. It's eternal. End of story.
And then John 6:37 mentions that you will never be cast out, which means, you can't walk away from everlasting life.
What if I just quit believing? Or if I just lose my assurance or faith?
You still have it.
Still have everlasting life.
It's not dependent on you or your belief or your doubts. Well, your initial belief is needed, but you don't have to continue believing.
Right. Another one to mention, John 10:28-29 talks about never perishing, never being snatched out of his hand, just implying the same thing of what Aubrey just said. is when you can't be snatched out, meaning like once you have the gift, he can't just take it away, or you can't put it down.
Even you can't snatch it out of your own hand.
Yeah. And the never perishing, it's not even referring to a physical death, because we know that we're all going to die physically one day. He's talking about this spiritual death that we all have initially due to the sin of Adam and Eve, but we can experience life which is in him.
And then John 8:51 also mentions never see death, which is kind of like the never perish. It's just spiritual death.
Right. Which just means you're going to be with him in the kingdom forever. Right?
Yes.
And the other one I want to mention, which is really, really powerful. So in John chapter 11, in this context, Lazarus actually dies, which is one of his really good friends. And Jesus said in 25, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And he was talking to Martha, which is the brother of Lazarus. But in this context... Sister, I'm sorry. Did I say mother?
You said brother.
Brother. I'm twisting words. Anyway,
it's okay.
The point is, what Jesus was trying to say with Lazarus is, I just raised him from the dead, meaning when you believe in me for everlasting life, you will never see spiritual death because you'll be with me in the kingdom. Even though you may physically die, you have everlasting life, which is pretty cool.
John 14:6, this is Jesus speaking. He says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life.
And what is that supposed to mean?
It means that Jesus is the only way to everlasting life. So you have to believe in Jesus, meaning Jesus from Nazareth.
Right, 2,000 years ago, not just Jesus down the street or something.
Yes.
Right. And also another cool verse from Matthew 7:13 through 14, which ties into Jesus being the only way, or the gift that he offers, says, enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it, because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. So what this is kind of saying is the narrow way that a lot of people talk about, it's difficult to find, which leads to life, and it's referring to Jesus is the only way, but the only way through Jesus' words is to believe in him for everlasting life. Once you have it, you can't lose it. It's eternal. And that is the only way, the narrow way, which is pretty neat. So something I kind of want to point out is the words never cast out or snatched out is mentioned twice in John. And I think that's really neat because John, as the author, the apostle, he wanted to make it very clear that once you have that free gift of everlasting life, it cannot be lost. And there's other countless examples, but just cast out and snatched is mentioned. Also, never seeing death / perishing is mentioned 3 times. John 3:16, John 8:51, and also John 10:28 through 29. And I think that's just a cool emphasis that you'll never see spiritual death. You'll be with him in the kingdom forever. John
just really wanted to make his message very clear, which is why he mentioned those several times.
And what's pretty cool is I was talking to a guy about this. So, like, if you want to start in chapter 3, read about Nicodemus, how to be born again, and then go into the Samaritan woman. What's cool about John's writing is if you don't get the message of everlasting life the first time, he makes it very clear in other spots. So if you didn't get the first time, let's try the second. Oh, let's try the third. Let's try the fourth. There's so many countless examples in this book. So this is why we emphasize this is the book to evangelize with, because it's, from the purpose statement, it's to help someone receive everlasting life, which is through Jesus' offer of it.
And this is why we in Free Grace emphasize this book, the book of John, as evangelical. And this is also why we named our podcast the Clear Gospel Podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this with others. If you enjoy our content, feel free to share our channel with others.
On our next episode, we will be discussing our story of our first few years of marriage and how God has worked in our lives.
Remember, don't just take it.
Test it.